The auto world is reeling tonight as Stellantis, the global powerhouse behind brands like Jeep, Ram, Dodge, Chrysler, and Fiat, just launched a price offensive nobody saw coming. In an era where most automakers are quietly raising sticker prices, Stellantis has slammed the market with jaw-dropping discounts of up to 60% on select models. And the shockwaves are immediate. Dealers across the country are already reporting record foot traffic as buyers rush to grab deals that feel more like clearance sales than typical end-of-year incentives. Industry analysts say this isn't a simple seasonal promotion. It's a calculated strike aimed at gutting rivals like Ford, GM, and Toyota, right where it hurts most: their profit margins. What's driving such a drastic move? Insiders point to a perfect storm. Inventories of unsold vehicles have been piling up after months of soft demand and rising interest rates. Warehouses are stacked with high-margin trucks and SUVs that simply aren't moving fast enough, and Stellantis leadership knows that carrying costs are bleeding cash every day. Rather than let billions in inventory sit idle, they've chosen to turn the tables and flood the market with deals so aggressive that competitors can't match them without torching their own balance sheets. One Detroit analyst described it as price warfare on a scale we haven't seen since the 2008 recession. And early sales data suggest consumers are responding in droves. The pressure on rivals is intense. Ford's F-Series, GM's Silverado and Sierra, and Toyota's Tundra are suddenly staring down Stellantis trucks selling for nearly half the price. Fleet buyers, delivery companies, construction firms, municipal agencies are quietly shifting orders to Stellantis because the savings are impossible to ignore. This isn't just about moving a few extra cars. It's about grabbing long-term market share while others scramble. Suppliers and dealership networks are whispering about aftershocks that could ripple through the entire supply chain, from parts manufacturers to shipping companies. Even Wall Street is taking notice. Stellantis stock spiked in pre-market trading as word of the discount spread, while shares of Ford and GM wobbled on fears of an all-out price war. Some analysts predict this could trigger a domino effect, forcing other automakers to slash prices, eroding profit margins industry-wide. But Stellantis seems ready for that fight, having quietly stockpiled cash reserves during the past 2 years of strong profits. Insiders say CEO Carlos Tavares has been planning a bold move for months, waiting for the moment when competitors were stretched thin by EV investments and slowing sales. Behind showroom doors, dealers describe scenes that feel more like Black Friday than a typical Tuesday. Customers who had given up on buying new because of soaring interest rates are suddenly signing deals they thought they'd never see again. Finance managers are rushing to keep up with the surge, while used car lots watch values tumble as buyers pivot to brand-new vehicles at near-used prices. Economists warn this could send ripples through the entire used car market, depressing trade-in values and shaking auction prices across the country. And it doesn't stop there. Industry veterans are speculating that Stellantis is also using these discounts as a Trojan horse to capture new EV customers. Deep cuts on plug-in hybrids and electric models like the Jeep Recon and the Ram 1500 REV mean Stellantis isn't just clearing out gas vehicles. They're buying future loyalty in the growing EV segment. If customers experience their first electric ride at a fraction of the cost, brand allegiance could shift for years to come, leaving Tesla and the traditional Big Three scrambling for answers. But the question everyone is asking now is how long Stellantis can keep this fire sale burning and what the next move from competitors will look like. Suppliers across North America are already feeling the tremors as Stellantis accelerates production to keep up with surging demand. Parts makers in Michigan and Ontario report emergency calls for increased shipments of steel, electronics, and interior components, a signal that the company is ready to sustain this discount blitz far longer than anyone expected. Logistics companies are adding extra freight runs to move vehicles faster from assembly plants to dealerships, while rail carriers are scrambling to allocate more capacity for finished cars. Every link in the supply chain is suddenly in overdrive, and the ripple effect is drawing the attention of unions, trucking associations, and even government regulators who worry about bottlenecks if this momentum continues unchecked. Meanwhile, rival executives are holding late-night strategy meetings as they watch showroom traffic bleed away. Ford insiders whisper about crisis mode incentives being drafted behind closed doors, while GM is reportedly weighing drastic financing offers to stem the tide. Toyota and Honda dealers are pleading with their corporate parents for emergency rebates, but Japanese automakers, facing weaker yen and already thin profit margins, may struggle to match such steep price cuts. If Stellantis maintains this pace, analysts say it could permanently alter the pricing landscape for trucks and SUVs in the US, making high sticker prices a relic of the past and forcing every competitor to rethink years of pricing strategy. Financial analysts are poring over Stellantis balance sheets and discovering that this aggressive play is funded by a war chest built during the pandemic-era sales boom. With billions in reserve and a diversified portfolio that spans Europe, North America, and emerging markets, Stellantis can afford to gamble in a way rivals simply can't. By contrast, Ford and GM are heavily committed to costly EV rollouts and infrastructure upgrades, leaving them far less flexible to engage in a drawn-out price battle. This imbalance is what makes Stellantis' move so lethal. It's not just a discount, it's a calculated siege on the entire US automotive hierarchy. Consumer behavior is shifting overnight. Social media is flooded with videos of buyers boasting about deals that sound too good to be true. Brand new Ram 1500s selling at prices once reserved for compact sedans. Jeep Grand Cherokees leaving lots for barely half their MSRP. Online forums are buzzing with stories of buyers driving hundreds of miles to snag a bargain, creating a frenzy that feeds on itself. Even skeptical shoppers who plan to wait out high interest rates are now rethinking their timelines as fear of missing out sets in. Economists warn that this sudden jolt to the market could have unexpected macro effects. Lower new vehicle prices put pressure on the used car market, deflating values that many consumers count on for trade-ins or resale. Banks and credit unions, anticipating a flood of new loan applications, are tightening approval standards to avoid exposure to rapid depreciation. And the Federal Reserve is watching closely, aware that a price war of this magnitude can skew inflation readings and complicate upcoming rate decisions. Yet inside Stellantis headquarters, the mood is nothing short of triumphant. Executives believe they've not only ignited a buying frenzy, but also seized the narrative in a market where consumer confidence has been shaky for months. With every discounted vehicle that rolls off the lot, Stellantis strengthens its dealership network, deepens customer loyalty, and weakens competitors' pricing power. Industry veterans call it one of the boldest strategic plays in decades, a throwback to the ruthless battles of Detroit's golden era. And still, the most startling part is that Stellantis shows no sign of easing up. Internal memos hint at additional waves of markdowns scheduled to coincide with upcoming model launches, including next-generation electric trucks and SUVs. If those rumors prove true, the next phase of this pricing offensive could collide with the holiday sales season, creating the kind of market chaos that forces every automaker, from Detroit to Tokyo, to either join the fight or risk being left behind. Dealerships are already bracing for that next wave. Some are hiring temporary staff to handle the crush of shoppers, while others are expanding service hours just to keep up with the constant flow of test drives and trade-ins. Regional managers are quietly advising sales teams to prepare for historic traffic levels through the end of the year, a phrase almost never used outside of holiday blowouts. Independent lot owners who rely on steady used car sales are watching their margins evaporate as potential customers bypass their lots in favor of brand-new Stellantis models priced like last year's pre-owned inventory. Industry watchdogs are warning that a prolonged discount war could distort the broader automotive ecosystem. Insurance companies may be forced to reevaluate coverage rates as the value of vehicles plunges faster than expected. Auction houses are already reporting softer bids on late-model trade-ins, a sign that wholesale prices could nosedive if the Stellantis surge continues. Even rental fleets, usually steady buyers of surplus stock, are pausing orders, calculating how the collapsing market might let them refresh their fleets at unprecedented savings just a few weeks from now. Inside rival boardrooms, the anxiety is palpable. GM analysts are running emergency forecasts on how a sustained 60% markdown environment would gut quarterly profits. Ford executives are quietly considering production slowdowns to avoid piling inventory into a falling market, while Toyota strategists debate whether to protect margins or sacrifice them to keep pace. Every competitor knows that once customers adjust to bargain basement pricing, there's no easy path back to the old sticker shock. The government is beginning to take notice as well. Commerce Department officials have reportedly requested data from major automakers to assess whether the Stellantis price blitz could destabilize employment in supplier industries. Labor unions are watching closely, concerned that an extended price war could lead to sudden layoffs if rivals slash output. Congressional aides hint that hearings on market-disruptive pricing tactics could surface if the ripple effects start hitting manufacturing hubs across the Midwest. Meanwhile, Stellantis marketing teams are doubling down, flooding digital platforms with bold ads that flaunt the 60% figure in giant, uncompromising fonts. Viral campaigns on TikTok and Instagram show ecstatic customers driving off lots with captions bragging about the deal of a lifetime. Influencers are joining the frenzy, turning what began as a corporate strategy into a full-blown cultural moment. Financial markets are reacting in real time. Hedge funds are shorting rival automakers while increasing stakes in Stellantis suppliers, betting that this surge will last longer than anyone dares to predict. Analysts on Wall Street conference calls openly debate whether we are witnessing a temporary flash sale or the dawn of a new pricing paradigm that could redefine the economics of the entire auto industry. Through it all, the unanswered question hangs heavier by the day. How far is Stellantis willing to push? And how deep must the rest of the industry cut to survive if these unprecedented discounts continue to escalate? Reports from European markets suggest that Stellantis may be preparing to export this aggressive strategy beyond North America. Early whispers from Paris and Turin hint at similar markdowns being tested in select EU countries, where high inflation and stagnant wages have cooled car sales for months. If the company unleashes comparable 50 to 60% cuts overseas, competitors like Volkswagen, Renault, and BMW could be dragged into the same downward spiral now shaking Detroit. Trade groups in Germany and France are already lobbying their governments to monitor the situation, fearing a sudden flood of ultra-cheap imports could destabilize local manufacturing jobs. Back in the United States, ripple effects are spreading to unexpected sectors. Oil and gas analysts note that a surge in new truck and SUV ownership, especially larger models with thirsty engines, could nudge fuel demand upward just as global prices fluctuate. At the same time, electric vehicle advocates worry that steep discounts on gas-powered vehicles will slow EV adoption, undermining state and federal targets for carbon reduction. Policymakers are quietly debating whether temporary incentives for EV buyers might need to be sweetened to counter Stellantis' market shock. Consumer finance experts warn that the frenzy is encouraging buyers to stretch credit limits. Some banks report a spike in applications for long-term auto loans, with customers eager to lock in a once-in-a-lifetime price even if it means 7 or 8-year terms. Credit unions are tightening risk assessments, anticipating a wave of buyers who could find themselves underwater if resale values collapse. Economists caution that widespread negative equity could ripple into broader household debt metrics, complicating efforts to stabilize inflation. Inside Stellantis, the leadership circle is treating this as a carefully staged offensive. Internal strategy documents leaked to analysts describe Operation Market Reset, a multi-phase plan that blends deep price cuts with aggressive digital marketing and targeted dealer incentives. Executives believe the combination will not only clear excess inventory, but also reset consumer expectations, forcing the entire industry to accept permanently lower margins. Confidential memos even reference contingency plans for a prolonged, low-price environment, suggesting the company is ready to maintain pressure well into the next fiscal year. Meanwhile, rival automakers are scrambling for countermeasures. Ford's internal task force is exploring hybrid leasing models with ultra-low monthly payments to regain attention. GM is weighing unprecedented loyalty bonuses and even discussing partnerships with financial institutions to subsidize interest rates. Toyota is testing pilot programs in key U.S. regions with steep, short-term rebates, though insiders admit they can't sustain such deals without major hits to profit. Dealers on the front lines describe the atmosphere as electric and chaotic. Sales teams report record-breaking weekends, with showrooms packed from open to close and delivery schedules backed up for days. Service departments, anticipating a long tail of new owners, are expanding maintenance packages and hiring extra technicians to handle future demand. The traditional end-of-year clearance period, once a predictable calendar event, now feels like a rolling thunderstorm, unpredictable, relentless, and impossible to ignore. Yet amid the frenzy, analysts insist the most critical phase is still ahead. If Stellantis extends these markdowns into the launch of upcoming electric trucks and SUVs, the entire competitive landscape could tilt permanently. Legacy automakers balancing massive EV investments with shrinking gasoline profits would face a brutal choice: slash prices and bleed cash, or hold the line and surrender market share to a company that has already proven it's willing to burn the rulebook. Rumors now swirl that Stellantis is quietly negotiating bulk deals with major ride-sharing fleets and nationwide delivery services, locking in contracts at prices competitors simply can't match. If those agreements are finalized, it could mean tens of thousands of vehicles moving in a single stroke, giving Stellantis a stranglehold on high-visibility urban markets and guaranteeing a steady stream of maintenance revenue for years. Industry insiders describe it as a double play, not only clearing current stock, but ensuring the brand dominates city streets and suburban driveways alike. Suppliers, meanwhile, are operating in overdrive. Steel mills in the Midwest report overnight orders for raw materials well above normal volumes, while semiconductor manufacturers are being asked to prioritize Stellantis production lines ahead of rivals. This sudden shift is creating tension across the supply chain, with other automakers fearing delays and shortages as key components are diverted towards Stellantis's swelling output. The competition for chips, wiring harnesses, and advanced battery cells is becoming a behind-the-scenes battleground, every bit as intense as the public price war. Financial commentators are beginning to draw comparisons to historic market shakeups, like the airline fare wars of the 1990s and the smartphone price collapses of the early 2000s. Each of those episodes permanently reset consumer expectations and left weaker players bankrupt or absorbed by stronger ones. Veteran auto analysts now warn that if Stellantis keeps its foot on the accelerator, some legacy brands, especially those heavily indebted or overly reliant on a narrow product line, may not survive in their current form. On the consumer side, the frenzy shows no sign of cooling. Online forums are tracking dealership inventories in real time, with buyers swapping tips on where the deepest discounts can still be found. Families who once assumed a new truck or SUV was years out of reach are driving hundreds of miles overnight to secure deals, sometimes camping outside dealerships before dawn. Social media feeds overflow with celebratory posts of brand new keys and massive savings, fueling a fear of missing out cycle that keeps drawing in more shoppers each day. Economic ripples extend far beyond the showroom floor. Regional banks in truck-heavy states like Texas and Oklahoma report a noticeable uptick in auto loan activity, while housing economists note an unexpected boost in consumer confidence surveys linked to big-ticket purchases. At the same time, used car auction prices are plunging faster than forecasters thought possible, creating headaches for rental agencies and small dealers who depend on predictable residual values to stay solvent. Inside Stellantis headquarters, executives reportedly monitor these cascading effects with clinical precision. Internal dashboards track competitor incentives, inventory levels, and consumer sentiment hour by hour. Strategy teams are said to be modeling multiple next-phase scenarios, including selective global rollouts, extended financing partnerships, and even the possibility of using the current momentum to launch new sub-brands aimed squarely at first-time buyers. Yet even with all eyes on Stellantis, the unanswered question grows louder. How will governments, trade groups, and rival automakers respond if this relentless pricing offensive keeps tightening its grip on every corner of the global auto market? The shockwaves from Stellantis's unprecedented price offensive are only just beginning to reverberate. What started as a bold gamble to clear inventory has morphed into a full-scale disruption that's reshaping buyer behavior, destabilizing competitors, and sending tremors through the global supply chain. Every automaker, from Detroit to Tokyo to Munich, is now forced to rethink its strategy in real time, while regulators and economists scramble to understand the long-term consequences. For now, one thing is certain: consumers have never seen deals like this. and the industry may never be the same again. Whether Stellantis can maintain this aggressive stance, or whether rivals will find a way to counterpunch, will decide the next chapter of the automotive market. If you found this deep dive valuable, stay tuned for our next update, where we'll track the fallout, the surprise winners and losers, and the moment when this high-stakes price war reaches its breaking point.